Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Grilled Sportscast. My name is Naoki. I'm here with Bacon, and Ray's sadly not here. He's in the middle of a move. But before we start, just to remind you that this podcast is affiliated with Glitch Energy. Use code GRILLED for 10% off. Now, a few things we're going to cover. Of course, the crazy March Madness that has been going on is definitely one to talk about. NHL, NBA playoff pictures being one of the most being the weirdest thing. How the World Baseball Classic went, and of course, I am going to have my own little touch around the end of the episode about the RLCS Winter Major. But to kick things off, let's start off with NHL and NBA playoff picture. Um, but if we're going to start with any sport, we got to start with the sport that we both love. Let's talk about the playoff picture for the NHL. Um, the Bruins and Hurricanes are the only two teams to have clinched a playoff spot for this upcoming playoffs, which is not surprising. If the Devils win tonight, they clinch with the third team to reach 100 points. I believe that is the same thing for the Maple Leafs, but they will be reaching 97 points. And then teams that have already been eliminated, of course, the Columbus Blue Jackets have been eliminated from playoff contention. No surprise with that. And also the Anaheim Ducks, Chicago Blackhawks, and the San Jose Sharks have been eliminated from playoff contention. But those teams are in the 50 points section, while these other teams are around the 60-point section. But in the West, we might as well just call it at this point for the West. Except maybe let the Predators, Kraken, Jets play a few more games. But you know what? The West is practically decided. Our seedings, it's just all about seeding now for the West. But the East, ooh,
That's where it's at.
that's where it's going to come down to the wire because you got the Red Wings, the Sabres, the Senators, the Capitals, the Panthers, and the Penguins and Islanders all fighting for that wild card spot. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 teams fighting for a playoff spot. And technically the Flyers aren't even out of contention either. But they'd have to go undefeated for the rest of the season. So
Yeah, and you look at the other matchups you have. Of course, like you mentioned, the Bruins are on, or not the Bruins, the Devils are on the brink of clinching as well. Since Carolina has already clinched with 100 points, they pretty much need a win today in order to do that. And I saw on NHL PR that they have to beat whatever team they're playing today. I can't remember who
Sabres.
it is. They're playing the Sabres. They have to beat the Sabres in any fashion in order to get those 2 points and get the win and get that playoff ticket. But we also have teams like the Rangers, the Leafs, and even the Lightning who are also contributing in their division and trying to fight to get in because it's a close spot also. And the quicker you clinch, the possible easier matchup you have. So it's a race to get there as soon as you can.
yeah, and also a lot of teams like the Wild and the Kings are trying to fight to not have to face those third seeding teams because as we know, as Blues fans, us 3-seeders, we're not ones to sleep on.
Not at all.
We beat the Wild and they were the second seed. We were the third seed and we crushed them.
The Huntsville Havoc won the President's Cup on multiple occasions, being the fourth.
Didn't we have the third seed in 2019 and then we went to go win the Stanley Cup?
We did, I believe. I believe we did.
Yeah, because the Predators had the wild card spot and we had the third seed.
I have the standings right here from 18-19. We were, drum roll please, the third seed. We ended with 99 points, 45 and 28-9.
Yep, we were third, and those third place teams are pretty damn scary, as has been in the past few years. So I guess the Kings are really trying to get out of playing the Oilers, and if the Kings win the Pacific, congratulations to them, man. Like, they've worked their ass off to rebuild this team, and they've done it. They've definitely rebuilt this team into a playoff team. But to be fair, the West isn't really that strong, but still they have 92 points, which is more than half the fucking division. So And
Oh,
then
yeah.
the Wild trying to pass the Stars, so the Stars will have to play the Avalanche instead of the Wild. But the Avs have wait. You're telling me the Dallas Stars are the first seed in the Central
That's crazy.
under 40 regular wins.
Well, they're at 39, but they could just get that 40th as soon as possible, and that'll be fine.
Still 14 overtime losses. That means they've taken a good chunk of their losses in overtime, which means that they are, which actually I think that makes the Stars scarier. You mean to tell me they've taken the majority of their opponents to overtime? Like,
That's a huge thing to keep in mind because beating a team in regulation is one thing, but if they still force you to overtime, that still shows how strong of a team they can be.
I always think like mid-team overtime, and I just think Yotes Maple Leafs.
That.
Yeah, those are amazing games. I always love to see those.
Speaking of the Central Division in the Western Conference, Colorado hanging on to that third place spot. The Winnipeg Jets are looking threatening there. They could swoop in at any moment, no pun intended, and take that third place spot. And Nashville, they're somewhat in contention. They're 5 points behind Winnipeg, and Winnipeg is 3 points behind the Avalanche, so combined 8 points. But when you see these other teams like St. Louis, Arizona, Chicago, and all the other lower ranked teams, the odds are they're probably not going to go to the playoffs this year, but they could play one good game of spoiler, and that's what we could see later.
Absolutely.
A few years ago when the Blues were trying to make the playoffs, and some Blackhawks players said, we're going to play spoiler, and they unfortunately did.
Yep, and honestly, the Coyotes rebuild been looking pretty good. Honestly, it's high hopes in Arizona. People think that when they get the new arena, oh, they're gonna play the best hockey. No, an arena does not change a team. Sorry to break it to you, but
It
that's
really doesn't.
because the San Jose Sharks were good and they played in the Cow Palace.
Yeah, like that's a huge. That's it's
It's a
something.
bad take. It's a bad take, is what it is when you say that a team needs a good stadium to play good. No, they don't. Come on.
And like I understand,
You could put the Bruins in the most rundown stadium and they'd still be where they are at right now.
well, I understand the importance to some teams on home, or I know I'm going to say court, but home ice advantage, and like some teams need it, and some teams don't need it. And a lot of people just view the whole home ice advantage thing as just a statistic that really doesn't matter. But for some teams, not like Boston, but there are some teams that will be impacted by it. But in the case of Boston, I do agree. You can put them in the Huntsville Iceplex where I played hockey. They'd still probably have the same amount of wins, and probably even more.
They could probably be at like 60 wins by now, you know?
They could.
But all I know is that as somebody who's a multi-team fan, I get shit on a lot for it, but I'm like, I cheer on at least one team from each division. And I usually cheer on a team that's pretty close to my heart, the Devils, a team that has been with me ever since I got into the NHL. The Blues in the Central Division. I live near, at least near St. Louis, closer to St. Louis than I am Denver. That's why I cheer on the Blues more than the Avalanche, because I'm not even an Avalanche fan. Let's be real. I was only an Avalanche fan when they beat the Lightning. So, Panthers, my father, he cheered on the Panthers since they became a team. So that's very close to my heart. And the Pacific, it was Ducks for a while, but the Kraken are closer to my heart because I have family up in Seattle. So people say it's controversial that that it used to be three, that two of my favorite teams are in the playoffs, but it's all about how close they are to my heart, really.
There's
But
nothing wrong with that.
honestly, if the Oilers or Kings shit the bed, Kraken could swoop in and take that place.
They could. It's a possibility.
They have 86 points. Oilers have 90. Kings have 92. And honestly, they could win the division if the Golden Knights do not win a single game.
They could.
But I guess it's all about the strength of schedule, right?
Yeah, that's an also important factor too.
Yeah, Golden Knights will play. Drum roll, please. They play the Oilers next. Ooh. And then they play the next game after that. Dude, there's a lot of lack of games coming up because of end of season. Dude, once it hits May, I'm gonna cry because I'm like, the season's ending. No.
And then when May
Yeah,
hit,
they have a decent schedule, but it's not as strong as teams like teams like the Kraken and the Oilers and the Kings. The Kings have a tougher schedule than the Golden Knights, so I guess the Golden Knights technically have already clinched that fucking division, but fuck the Knights. Fuck the Knights. They can't if the like us Blues fans will always be able to flip off the Knights because we're like, where's your Stanley Cup ring, assholes? You
dude,
lost
Vegas
to the
fans talk the
Capitals,
most
right?
out of any fan base I've ever met, and I've come across a lot of NHL fan bases during my time. Vegas fans talk the most crap. It's all they do.
By the
And
way,
like,
just quickly shouting out Crystal Pepsi, our friend. We're not talking shit on you. We're not talking shit on you. You're the
yeah,
good
he's
type
a good
of Knights
friend. He's a
fan.
good friend. But besides that, yeah, they just talk the most crap, and they don't really have much to show about it.
But the thing is, the nicest NHL city apparently is Columbus
I can see that. Like I see
because their team may be dog, their team may be awful, but a lot of them are just there to have a good time.
and there's nothing wrong with that either.
And I'm like, that should be what Canucks fans are. They should be like, oh, bud, I'm just here to have a good time.
2011.
I'm here to drink beers and watch some puck, bud.
2011, man, that was a wild time to be alive.
Oh Lord! And by the way, just letting y'all know, ESPN has finished the filming for that documentary, for that 30-30 documentary about the riot. And that's good. I'm going to watch that. Honestly,
Well,
I'm going to watch that. I'm watching that. Next, NBA. It's a pretty close playoff race too, if you really look at it. Clinched seeds right now is the clinched game teams is the Bucks, Celtics, and 76ers. And then clinched in the West is the Nuggets and Grizzlies.
I'll just
But
say,
the
as
thing
a
that
Rockets fan,
kills me is that the 76ers have the strongest schedule out of every NBA team. And they clinched a playoff spot. That tells you how good the 76ers actually are. Don't talk shit on Philly teams. The Eagles are good. The Flyers were looking good until they shit the bed. And then the 76ers are actually really good. I wouldn't be surprised if they made the finals. I would not be surprised if the NBA championship was down to another team, probably like, let's say
Denver.
No, let's say Memphis. Just to throw a little curveball in there. Let's say like Memphis. It's Memphis and 76ers. I would not be surprised about the 76ers. Memphis, I'd be a little bit surprised because it's practically just Ja Morant carrying the entire team. Cry about it. I don't care if you don't like that take. Neither me or Bacon are into the NBA as big. We cheer on teams, but we're not as big into the NBA as some people out there are. We're more NHL, NFL guys. NHL, NFL, MLB.
Yeah.
Those are our three.
I mean, seeing my Houston Rockets just forget how to play basketball. I mean,
It's hard to watch. I'm guessing.
well, it's not hard for me. I just laugh when I see it. I could be upset about it, or I could laugh about it and move on.
The last time I watched the NBA is because I'm a Bucks fan. Been Bucks fan for a while. I don't have to explain. I don't have to explain why I'm a Bucks fan because I was like Rockets. They don't have a really. I don't really like Houston at all because fuck the Texans. So I'm gonna go with the Milwaukee Bucks since I was already Brewers fan at that time. I really love Milwaukee. Shit beer, by the way. Even though I've never drank a day in my life.
Budweiser is better, if you ask me.
I mean, if it's gonna be advertised by Peyton Manning, I'll drink that piss. Cleveland Cavaliers. I don't know how many. It doesn't show me how many points these teams have, but Currently, the bracket for this looks like this. Bucks are the number 1 seed. Celtics are the number 2 seed. Bucks will play the number 8 seed in play-in, and the Celtics will play the number 7 seed in play-in. It will be 76ers, Nets, and Cavaliers, Knicks. And then those 2 seed games will be Heat, Hawks, and Raptors, Bulls. Bulls are in the playoffs. Ooh. But it's not yet. Pacers are still on the bubble. Wizards are still on the bubble, and the Magic are still in the bubble. But the 2 teams that have been disqualified from the postseason are the Hornets and the Pistons. Poor Detroit, man.
Telling the team. No wonder.
Poor Detroit, man. Literally can't have shit in Detroit. In the Western Conference, of course, you got the Denver Nuggets, Memphis Grizzlies for those number 8 and number 7 seed play-ins. But actually, according to this, because of weird shit, Sacramento will play the number 7 seed, Grizzlies will play the Mavs, and the Suns will play the Clippers. As it stands, the Timberwolves will make the playoffs, play the Mavericks, and the Lakers will actually make the playoffs and play the Pelicans. On the bubble is the OKC Thunder. Honestly, I should cheer on the Thunder because that's my dad's team. The Jazz are on the bubble, and the Trailblazers are on the bubble, and no surprise here with the 2 teams eliminated from the postseason. Spurs and Rockets.
Yeah.
No surprise there.
No, I'm not surprised one bit. I'm surprised the Spurs are as bad as we are.
Anyways, let's get into the biggest topic now. It is March Madness, baby. March Madness I'm going to say it now. Rip it right now because I know that bracket shit. I know that bracket's done.
If Houston loses, I'll rip it on stream. I'll do it. If Houston loses, I'm ripping it on stream.
We'll post that. We'll post that as a short on the channel.
Tag me in it.
100%, dude. Technically, that channel's run by all 3 of us, so
I'll let it be known right here on the Grilled Sportscast. If the Houston Cougars lose and do not win the Division I men's basketball tournament, I will rip this I will rip this into 2, and I will try not to cry about it.
No, you got to do it the dude perfect way. Grab a lighter and burn it.
Bet. I'll go. I'll stop by Rhodes and grab a lighter. I'll do it.
Grab a big lighter and get ready.
What's those Elon Musk flamethrowers when they come in here? Or sorry, not a flamethrower. I have to keep those in mind. I'll have to buy one of those just for this purpose.
All right. So since the last time we recorded this podcast, the first round wasn't even finished. In the 3rd episode, the first round wasn't even finished. The only areas that got done, I'm pretty sure, was just the South and the West. The East hadn't even played, and the Midwest hadn't even played yet. Because I remember talking about how Princeton made it. And boys, Princeton is in the Sweet 16. How about that? An Ivy League school is in the Sweet 16. I mean, they're a good team. Like, honestly, they're great.
They got past Arizona somehow by 4. They got past Missouri by 15. That was a shocker game. If I knew Princeton was going to lose, but I didn't know what the score would be, I would say it would probably be a buzzer beater or something. No, they beat them by 15. Alabama and Maryland was a good game if you're a Bama fan. If you're a Maryland fan, then let's not talk about it. San Diego State playing right now against Bama as we speak. The TV's over there.
Honestly, San Diego State beating Furman was a given. Like, come on.
That was going to happen. But let's head into other parts of the bracket.
Midwest.
Kind of scared us people who thought Houston was going to win the whole thing. That gave us a little bit of a scare.
And then Auburn, they didn't even bring up a fight. Like let's be honest, that wasn't even a fight. 81-64. Come on.
Miami,
but
Florida.
I am still happy that Iowa got eliminated. I'm still so fucking happy. And Pitt eliminate Iowa State down there.
Iowa State, bye-bye. Let's see what else. Penn State sending Texas A&M home. I was hoping.
And then they got sent. Dude, Texas, they got revenge for A&M. As they sent Penn State home to get into the Sweet 16 to play Xavier, who beat Pitt.
and that's gonna be a good game. Texas getting right by Penn State to go take on Xavier. I'm looking
Before
forward to that game.
before we get yelled at by those Blue Jays fans, of course Creighton beat NC State 72-63. Baylor beat UCSB 74-56, but then Creighton came to play and beat Baylor 85-76, and they will be playing Princeton. To get that will be on Friday at 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern. Just to let you know about that. Xavier and Texas will be playing Friday at 8:45 Central, 9:45 Eastern, and Houston will be playing Miami on Friday at 6:15 Central, and that will be 7:15 Eastern. Right now, Alabama's actually playing San Diego State. The current score is 13-11, but that probably will change in the next minute or so as we head down to the bottom half of the bracket, which is the East and the West.
Starting off with Purdue, I mean, oh my God, what happened?
Where were they ranked again? Where were they ranked? Like the top 5, right?
That sounds about right. But I had them going to the semifinal, and then FDU is like, you're not going anywhere. And so that happened. Then FAU ruined the Cinderella run for FDU. No chance there. Memphis disappointed me. I'll say that right now. Memphis ripped my heart out and threw it on the ground and stomped on it. I was expecting a lot more from Memphis. In fact, after the game, right when the final buzzer went off, one of the Memphis trainers took a water ball and just threw it. He was frustrated with how that game ended.
That reminds me of in the Stanley Cup final when the Boston guy threw his water bottle.
Yeah,
you remember that. You remember that. That's a good comparison.
Sometimes when I'm having a sad day, I like to go and watch that on replay.
Duke 74-51 over Oral Roberts beat Louisiana by only 3.
Duke
the Raging Cajuns somehow kept it a close game, but congrats to them. But then Tennessee just came out to play against Duke.
There's a website called diddukewin.com. And if you go there in big red letters, it says no. And then underneath it, it says the score. And it updates after every single Duke game. And I remember going on my phone and my dad texted me celebrating how Duke is out. And a score update 13-13 San Diego tie game for that. But seeing Duke go out that early, I mean, I was kind of expecting them to go just a little bit further, but it wasn't meant to be. Tennessee came in. But then there's this school, you may have heard of them. It's called FAU. Yeah, yep. Tennessee fans probably know who they are now. They lost to them 62-55 in a shocker. And now they will go and play K-State in a game that's expected to be pretty good.
Yeah, speaking of K-State, they are making the state of Kansas proud by actually now being a good team. In the past, we all know that K-State hasn't really been playing well. They haven't performed up to expectations. And now they're actually good. And it hurts to say this, but they are going further than the Jayhawks right now. But to be honest, the Jayhawks are the best.
We will get to them in a moment.
Yeah, we will. K-State not only beat Montana State, not surprising, but then they beat Kentucky and Michigan State, and that game almost went to 3 digits with the final score being 98-93.
I was kind of hoping it would pass that triple-digit mark, but so close yet so far. But
yet so far, we almost got that in Alabama versus TA and MCC.
We almost did.
But honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if later in this bracket we start seeing lower and lower scores once we get to those teams that have really good defense. One of those is Gonzaga in sometimes, but I'm going to be honest, Gonzaga's defense is really on and off, as you can see on the side of the bracket. But let's finish up. Of course, Michigan State did make it to the second round and lost to the Sweet 16.
Going home early. I did not expect Marquette to go home.
Yeah, Marquette is great. Actually, once I'm done with this, I actually want to touch on the women's basketball one.
Of course, got to give them a shout out.
Yeah, got it. I really want to just talk about women's basketball because I've been following it closely, and oh my god, women's basketball this year has been pretty fucking entertaining.
Let's hear it.
But we're gonna do that after we're done with the men's bracket. So of course, these games down there, it's only It's all the way down to the Elite Eight in the bottom half of the bracket. But let's hit the West before we reveal those matchups. Kansas beat Howard 96-68. Arkansas beat Illinois 73-63. St. Mary's beat VCU 63-51. UConn beat Iona 87-63. TCU beat Arizona State. I was very sad about that. 72-70. Gonzaga beat Grand Canyon. No surprise about that. 82-70. Northwestern beat Boise State. Honestly, the only time I love Boise State is in football because love the blue field. Northwestern, of course, beat them 75-67, and UCLA beat Asheville 86-53. And then now we got into the second round. We're going to talk about them last. UConn beat St. Mary's 70-55. Gonzaga beat TCU by 3 points in an 84-81 victory. And then UCLA beat Northwestern 68-63. And Arkansas beat KU 72-71.
In the Sweet 16, UConn upsetting Arkansas's run and sending them home 88-65.
And then Gonzaga taking out UCLA.
If you missed the end of that game, that was insane.
Was honestly, I literally stopped what I was doing to watch that game. I was like, okay, this is interesting.
Everybody be quiet. Gonzaga, UCLA are playing. Like that's the big thing. And UCLA took the lead late, but they left way too much time on that clock. And Gonzaga literally pulled off the Jenkins play from Villanova's buzzer beater against UNC.
That reminds me of there was an NFL compilation video out there that's called "Too Much Time on the Clock."
Yeah,
I watched that so many times. And like, and the thing is, one of those was a Chiefs play. So. And to let you know, the Elite Eight games will be Saturday at 5:00. And I know it will be the FAU Owls versus the K-State Wildcats at 5:09 Central. That is 6:09 Eastern. And UConn will be playing the UConn Bulldogs. Will be playing the University of Connecticut Huskies on Saturday at 7:49 with these weird start times. 7:49 Central Time. That's 8:49 Eastern.
Well, before we go to the women's bracket, we're going to do something, even it out. When SEMO lost, I got to have a moment on the floor and talk about the team. Naoki, Kansas, the floor is yours.
Oh, Lord. I'm just going to say I kind of just saw this coming. And including the fact that my bracket's still perfect. And somehow that's going to end soon, of course. I predicted it coming, and this game was just all Arkansas, really. That one point may make it seem like, oh, it was a close game, right? No, we turned the ball over 12 times. We only had 7 offensive rebounds to their 15 rebounds on offense. We were 5 for 13 from threes, but our free throw percentage was atrocious today, 72% from the line, while theirs was an 80.8. And the leader in points for this game was Wilson, yeah. But because Grady Dick was not playing to how we wanted him to play, we definitely lost this game. Honestly, I was just appalled by this team during that last during this game. Literally the only 2 people on the bench even getting points was Yesufu and Pettiford. Well, Arkansas, they had Walsh putting up 10, Mitchell putting up 6, and Graham putting up 2. Like their bench players was doing something, but ours were doing practically nothing. They were just sitting there eating on like a sleeve of Oreos. Like, come on, man. And then I guess Davis and Council were unguardable because 25 points for Davis and 21 points for Council. They were practically carrying Arkansas. Let's be real. They were practically carrying Arkansas that entire game. But I am just disappointed in the Jayhawks. And I'm not going to say we're going to come back next year and do better. We're not. I'm thinking that next year is going to be hell for the Jayhawks. This is not going to be a good game. This is not going to. The next season is going to be awful. I would have better money at our football team doing better next year than the basketball team because this year was atrocious. It was disappointing, and overall was an overall just mess. I have no more words at this point. I'm just appalled. I'm disappointed, appalled, and frustrated with how
Let's
these
go ahead and
teams
move
are
on to
playing.
the women's bracket. Go ahead and let you out early on that.
Thank you. All right, so the women's bracket has been pretty damn good right now. The amount of teams, of course, is still pretty good. To cover the first four, Purdue was knocked out by St. John's, New York. Mississippi State knocked out Illinois from the first four. Tennessee Tech uh, beat out Monmouth, and Sacred Heart beat out Southern SU. No surprise there. And then apparently there's a game going on right now, which we'll get to that later. South Carolina beat Norfolk State. No surprise there. South Florida beat Marquette. I watched that game and I was so happy for USF. Like, honestly, people talk so much shit on USF because surprisingly, the only thing they're good in is hockey. That's where they thrive. They have scored more than 10 goals in a lot of USF games. There's been more than 10 goals scored for USF. But then South Carolina went and beat them. So that's and the praise for South Florida. Oklahoma beat Portland, and then UCLA beat Sacramento State. And then UCLA went to beat Oklahoma 82-73, and South Carolina will be playing UCLA tomorrow at 1 Central. That is 2 Eastern on ESPN. Creighton lost to Mississippi State, and then Notre Dame played Southern Utah, and that was not even a close game. 82-56. Like, holy, didn't even put up a fight. But then Notre Dame, Mississippi State was the biggest fucking snooze fest, bud. Like, holy shit, 53-48. You hear that score in college basketball, and most people be like, oh, that's not bad. But keep in mind, compared to the men's, the women's teams play 4 quarters. Well, I'm pretty sure men's only plays 2 halves, right?
The halves are 20 minutes, but each quarter is 10 minutes.
Yeah. But still, you have 4 quarters to score more points, and 53-48. Come on.
More time to
Arizona.
I was gonna say, like, yeah, it equivalents to the same time as the men's game, but for the women's team, they have more time to regroup because they have those pauses between quarters. It's basically like a free timeout in a way when it comes to, okay, we need to regroup and get things together. As for the men's, there is no break when the 10-minute point passes. They could time out, but then again, that's one of your timeouts being used. So they don't really have that much time to regroup in compared to the women's teams.
Yep. Arizona beat West Virginia. I'm happy for Arizona getting far in some way, but we'll get to that later. And then Maryland played Holy Cross, and oh my fucking god, 93-61.
Ugh.
That is a 32-point deficit for Holy Cross, eliminating them. And then Arizona beat. Arizona didn't beat. They got killed by Maryland by 13 points, 77-64. And Notre Dame will be playing Maryland at 10:30 a.m. Central tomorrow. To cover the second Greenville side, you got Indiana play Texas Tech. 30-point difference. 77-47 was the final score of that game. Wasn't even a contest. Like, come on, wasn't even a contest to start. That's a college I haven't heard in a minute. I'll get to that soon. OSU lost to Miami by 1 point. I feel you, OSU fans. And then Miami actually beat Indiana by 2. And then Washington State played FGCU. FGCU pulling up the upset 74-63, passing the first round as the 12th seed team. That's pretty big. That's pretty huge. Villanova playing Cleveland State. 76-59 was the final score for Villanova. Villanova then went to play FGCU and beat them 76-57. And just to do some quick maths for you, that is 19 points. Not that big of a deficit, honestly. And then Miami Hurricanes beats Villanova 70-65. And Miami is the first team in the women's bracket to make it to the Elite Eight. Now, moving down, you got Michigan playing a college I haven't even heard of in a hot minute, UNLV. University of Las Vegas. It's supposed to technically have an N at the end for Nevada because the full university name is University of Las Vegas, Nevada. But still, they played Michigan 71-59. LSU is in this bracket. They played Hawaii, beat them 73-50, and then LSU went to play Michigan and beat them 66-42. Princeton. We've heard this name before, of course. They ended up being North Carolina State, 64-63 by only 1 point. Utah. Holy shit. You're going to be happy when I say this. A 3-digit game, ladies and gentlemen. Utah v. Gardner-Webb, 103-77. That is
very bad.
Very bad. That is, I'm pretty sure, around 26 points.
That's right. Yeah, 26.
And then Utah played Princeton. However, Princeton did not come on top this time. They beat Princeton 63-56. Not that bad, honestly. And LSU is actually playing Utah right now on ESPN. It's the fourth quarter. LSU leads Utah 60-54. Now to move down to the Seattle bracket, we got some good games over here. Stanford played Sacred Heart 92-49 was the final score. 92-49? That's
92-49.
43! That's a 43-point win!
It's a brutal way to lose.
Oh, poor Sacred Heart. I'm pretty sure didn't Ray talk about the first four?
I think
I recognize Sacred Heart. I recognize that name, Sacred Heart. I don't know. He probably did, honestly.
Yeah, he probably did.
Ole Miss beat Gonzaga 71-48, and then Ole Miss will end up being Stanford, the team who completely demolished Sacred Heart and their hearts, 54-49. That was a bad joke, I know. Sue me. Louisville played Drake, beat them 83-81. Texas played East Carolina, a name that probably almost nobody's ever heard of. Texas beat them 79-40. That's a 30-point deficit for East Carolina. And then Louisville beat Texas 73-51. Colorado played Middle Tennessee, beat them 82-60. Duke played Iona 89-49 was the final score for Duke. And then Colorado knocking out Duke 61-53. And they're moving on to the Sweet 16. Georgia beat Florida State 66-54. I actually watched that game. Pretty entertaining there. And then Iowa beat Southern Louisiana 95-43. 95-43. What in the Sam hell? Isn't that 52?
It might be.
Yeah, it is. That's a 52-point deficit. Sadly, the Bulldogs' run would end early as Iowa would beat them 74-66, and Colorado will be playing Iowa for that Sweet 16 game on actually tonight at 6:30. That's about in 15 minutes here. And by the way, Ole Miss Louisville, that game will be tonight at 9 Central. That is 10 Eastern. Now, moving on to the third Seattle. Virginia Tech played Chattanooga, won 58-33, and South Dakota State. Do you recognize that name?
South Dakota State?
Mm-hmm.
Sounds a little familiar.
I'm pretty sure they're in they're not in the Ohio Valley Conference, but they're in one of those like lower school conferences that nobody really hears of. They barely even make it here. They actually qualified. They didn't even need the first four. They beat University of South California 62-57. And Virginia Tech, of course, would end up beating them by 12, 72-60. Iowa State played Toledo, the 12th seed, and Iowa State actually lost this game 80-73. I mean, I don't know.
We are
I don't know what to say
seconds away
about it, man.
from
That's
Houston
funny. It's
and
funny.
Miami tipping off, and Houston and Miami are underway right now. Just now started. I have the game
Let's
right
go,
here.
Cougars! Come on.
Go
Come
Cougars.
on, Cougars.
Save this bracket. Come on, give me something to cheer for. And they missed that 3. Never mind, that ain't good. All right, let's move on to what we're talking about.
Tennessee beats St. Louis 95-50. 95-50. That's 45 points.
That's pretty bad.
Oh, it's a private university actually in St. Louis.
The Bellarmins? Yeah, I've heard of them.
But I don't know if that's...
The Houston fan base showed up for this game, unlike Miami's side. That's nothing but seats.
Oh, Lord. Okay.
Good.
Yeah, Tennessee beat them by 45, and then Tennessee would... Oh, my God. What is these blowouts in the women's bracket? 47-point win for the Tennessee Volunteers, 94-47. What the fuck?
I think blowouts are more common in the women's tournament than they are.
Yeah, but to be honest, as we get later into the bracket, those scores won't pop up as much. And that 100-point game that we talked about earlier from Utah, we probably will never see that again. To move on from that, North Carolina UNC played SJU, beat them 61-59. That's St. John's, New York. And then Ohio State beat JMU, which is James Madison, 80-66. And then Ohio State would beat UNC 71-69. Nice. Baylor would beat Bama. Ooh, Baylor beat Bama 78-74. UConn beat Vermont 95-52, which is not as big as a deficit as the other game, still 43 points. And then UConn actually beat Baylor 77-58. Virginia Tech's Sweet 16 game will be played at 5:30 Central, 6:30 Eastern tomorrow on ESPN2. And then Ohio State and University of Connecticut, that game will be played at 3 tomorrow on ABC. That's 3 Central, 4 Eastern tomorrow on ABC Network. I don't have much to say about the World Baseball Classic, so the floor is yours.
It's a heartbreaking finish if you're a Team USA fan, but you got to give hats off to Team Japan for their effort. They went undefeated this entire, I wouldn't say tournament, I mean, for the entire thing, including the Robins. You couldn't have asked for a better ending. I mean, Shohei going up against his MLB teammate Mike Trout and having to strike him out. Looked a little uneasy up on that mound too, but he finished it off. And congrats to Team Japan on a well-deserved victory, in my opinion. It was a close game, which you can't complain about that at all. But now I guess all the haters of the World Baseball Classic can knock it off. Now it's over. You don't have to worry about that. But we have some players that are out, like Diaz. He's out for the season because of that ankle problem that happened during a game. Waino's going to start on the IL this season for the Cardinals. It's not. We're very thankful that it's not a longer-term injury. It's only going to be a little bit. But it's still unfortunate regardless for anyone to get hurt. But the World Baseball Classic is over. We can shift our focus over to spring training. But all I can really say after the World Baseball Classic is GG's. It was a fun tournament. Congrats to Japan. Enjoy their victory. 97% of homes in Japan were watching the game. That's huge.
Yeah, Japan and China are, I believe, Japan and Korea, my bad, are the two nations that will literally make the World Baseball Classic like a religion, basically.
Yeah, like they watch the thing. Team Czech filling up their entire roster with shooters and engineers, which I think is and then striking out one of the best players on the planet. I think that's honestly one of the coolest things I've ever seen.
Devils, why?
Yep.
Why are we already down 2-0 to the Sabres?
Yeah, quick little basketball check. 33 seconds left in the first half. San Diego State leads Bama 28-33. For Houston, Miami, Houston is down 5-7. Are they going to get the rebound? They will get the rebound with 16 minutes left to go in the half, and that's going to be an out of bounds for Houston.
I'm shocked about San Diego State. They've been great, honestly. They've been great.
Good team.
And then we've all heard it a lot recently, about coaches and GMs wanting spring training to be dropped because players are getting injured and they're not happy about it. A lot of rosters are going to be full of AAA players because of these injuries, and coaches aren't happy about it. GMs aren't happy about it, but it is what it is, man. Spring training is very vital for these rookies who have basically no playing experience in the MLB, and getting that spring training in is definitely very vital for those rookies, honestly. And it should not be slept on, these opportunities that these rookies are being given to prove themselves, show their worth, and etc. But telling the owners to shut down spring training is basically ruining those opportunities for those rookies, which is why I think it is not the best idea to stop it, but it is what it is. If spring training gets dropped, we're not going to be too sad about it. We're not going to be too mad about it. And Bacon, tell the folks at home what Ezekiel Elliott has announced today.
Let me just let out this yawn real quick. All right. So Ezekiel Elliott is no longer a Cowboy. He has narrowed down his decisions to 3 teams, being the Cincinnati Bengals, the New York Jets, and get this, the Philadelphia Eagles are on his list of teams he may want to go to. That would be huge if he goes to the Eagles, not only for the Eagles and their fans, but I mean, that's a huge turnaround. I mean, you go from like the Dallas Cowboys to their biggest rivalry on the East Coast. That's huge. And he will probably hear the word traitor be said a lot amongst the Dallas Cowboy community.
Oh, boo-hoo, Cowboys fans. Boo-hoo. Get to the Super Bowl before you start crying traitor. Honestly, if he goes to the Eagles go. Oh wait, no, I'm sorry. I'm not gonna say Eagles are win a Super Bowl because remember, Colts win the Super Bowl by 51.
Of course. Also, Gardner Minshew didn't sign with the Colts. The Colts signed with Gardner Minshew.
Yeah.
But and also speaking about the Eagles and Super Bowl, I mean, if they want to win a Super Bowl with Elliott, that's great. Just they got to remember when to not commit a holding penalty. But enough of that.
Bro, you can't send shots like that.
They're saying, "Oh, it's rigged." He admitted to holding the guy.
But the thing is, we remember the field talks, how bad the field was.
Oh, the field condition was horrible.
But here's the thing. The Philadelphia Eagles players switched cleats. They went to the 5-studded cleat, which allowed for a lot more grip there. So a lot of those D-line players you saw falling was not because of the field conditions, it was because of their own damn balance. But of course, a lot of those players aren't allowed to wear 5-studded or even 7-studded cleats due to the fact that they literally need speed. Like wide receivers, a lot of quarterbacks now do not wear 7 to 5-studded cleats. Tight ends like Kelsey, even O-line players like Jason Kelsey. A lot of them don't wear 5 to 7 studded because they don't need to be fast. But the field conditions were awful. There's no saying, oh, well, they tried their best. No, that was just atrocious, man. Oh my God. Like, You had so long to prepare for the field. The field guy, like the guy who's been a veteran at making the fields for the Super Bowl. He's made multiple fields for the Super Bowl, and recently they've been getting worse is because he's been put less and less in charge. And he retired because of this field being that bad. He retired from fields.
It's horrible. I mean, you got to feel for this guy. I mean, like he's passionate about every Super Bowl field he's produced. He's become
100%.
less and less involved with it, and then finally, when it hits the fan, he didn't want to be a part of it anymore. So you can't blame him for wanting to retire. Like I produce videos, if like I start becoming less and less involved, and then then that hits the fan, I'd walk away too. I mean, I'd walk away too. But you got to feel for that guy at the end of the day.
It's like when you're like, let's say like, oh, two guys decided to start a brand, but then the friend that's like kind of the face of the brand is like shunning this person more and more. That's basically what this guy has gone through. He's been shunned more and more to the point where he's barely involved in the field. He practically just does the paint and leaves.
Pretty much.
He's the genius behind the beautiful paints a lot in those stadiums, in those Super Bowl stadiums. And honestly, they're beautifully painted, but you're not going to let him like make sure that turf is good. Like remember, the turf was used for the Super Bowl before this previous one. And you're not going to make sure the grass is dry, even though he told you let it dry. Don't throw it in the stadium wet, because that apparently that field was soaked.
It was soaked really bad.
It was soaking wet. If you looked at Jason Kelly's Kelly, who the fuck is Kelly? Jason Kelsey's pads, like his white pants, you could see a bunch of grass, dirt, all that, all covering it. So
wet dirt, wet mud, or wet grass all over it.
I mean, wet dirt is mud, so you are technically correct.
Yeah, it's bad. Like they got to do better. And of course, like that just can't happen again.
100%. And to end this episode off, I'm gonna talk a little bit about something that we kind of avoided because not really everybody. I'm pretty much the only one in the group that can really talk about esports and such. So I'm gonna take the floor real quick with RLCS and the Winter Major. Of course, going to quickly say Call of Duty League, all those. I pay attention to them. By the way, to those who don't know, the winners of the Rainbow Six Invitational in Montreal was G2. Congratulations to them. But let's head into Rocket League Winter Major. And the prize pool for this Winter Major is $310,000. That is a massive prize pool.
It's crazy how much money they're giving away for these things. It's so cool. Imagine being so good at a video game that they're offering you 6-digit prize money if you win a tournament. It's insane how far we've come from that or to that.
And here are your groups for the Winter Major. Your groups Group A consists of FaZe from the NA, G1 from EU, G2 from NA, and Crew from the South America. Dignitas. Group B consists of Dignitas, NA, Carmine Corp, EU, Team Falcons from the Middle Eastern, Northern Africa region, Team Vitality, EU. Group C consists of Gaming Gladiators, Asian Pacific, Ground Zero, Oceania, Team Liquid, EU, and Team Secret, South America. And then Group D, your final group, consists of Complexity Gaming from NA, Gen G, NA, OXG from EU, and the Kansas City Pioneers from the Oceania region. Weird that they're Kansas City and they're in the Oceania region. I found that funny. They used to be NA, but they kind of moved. This will be on from April 5th to April 8th, so mark your calendars for that. But sadly, yes, this was a short episode, but to be honest, we didn't have much to talk about. There's not much going on. Yeah, we have March Madness, but that doesn't end until April, man. And then Bacon and I have our own stuff going on. Of course, Ray is also moving, so it's very hard to, get episodes out. And of course, that last episode was too hours
God,
long. So we're trying to make episodes shorter. We apologize for that, but that nobody's gonna listen to a 2-hour podcast. Come
unless
on.
it's Joe Rogan or something like that.
Yeah, unless it's like Joe Rogan or some big name. Nobody's gonna listen to a 2-hour small podcast.
The last thing I want to mention is a quick little score update for San Diego State and Alabama. It's at the half. San Diego State is leading by 5, 28-23 over Bama. However, like the bracket challenge I mentioned about burning it with Fury, Houston about to make this free throw. If they make it, they'll be down by 3. Yep, and they are down 17-15 in favor of Miami.
And a quick score update for the NHL. Sabres lead the Devils 3-1. All right, we're gonna end the episode on that walk away. Thank you all so much for tuning in to the Grilled Sportscast. My name is Naoki. I'm here with Bacon. Don't forget, we are affiliated with Glitch Energy. Use code GRILLED for 10% off, and we are also sponsored by Anchor. Download the Anchor app to make your podcast today. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening. We appreciate every single one of you. Have a good day, night, afternoon, wherever you are from. We will see you all in the next episode. Goodbye.